Yes.
That's right.
Oh, yes.
Oh, good gracious.
This is... Oh, let me do it this week. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Let's Talk, getting to the root causes of all important issues of the day. This on-the-air community forum believes your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and tweets without judgment. Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492 or 8317, or tweet us at Let's Talk on KWMR. And your hosts
Today are Paul Raffel. Hello, Paul.
ahoy.
And Shelley, my darling.
Yes.
Shelley Rugg, I believe.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Indeed.
And you.
My name is Charles Schultz, yes.
There you go.
And sweary swearisons, don't call in. Don't do that.
That's right.
Watch your language.
So when you do call in to 415-663-8492 or 8317, please, you'll hear a little buzzy noise as I put you in the system, and just hang on until you hear me say you're on the air, and then give us a first name and make sure your radio's turned down, and please, very importantly, watch your language.
That's right. Write it down and watch it. Put it on the wall. Anyway, well, gracious, what is the topic today for Let's Talk?
You know, I saw this study that had been done, came out a couple of weeks ago, about loneliness being more of a health problem, more of a factor in heart disease and stroke than obesity.
Wow.
Yes. How about that? Loneliness.
I can imagine why you invited me to join the show, Paul. I don't get it.
No. Here's the thing. Loneliness as distinct from... In the blurb I sent out, I said I equated loneliness with social isolation. But, you know, being alone and loneliness are apparently two different things, because loneliness is more of a feeling. It's a mental... It's that kind of depressing thing that even when you're with other people, you feel lonely.
Yeah, indeed.
So but thought that might ring. But because you're never actually alone, right?
I have a cat now.
You're
Yes.
a very sociable person. You wander the streets of Marshall.
The one street. I wandered the street of Marshall. But
testing to see if the doors are locked.
Indeed. This was a conversation that one Paul Elmore of Marshall, California had with one Donna Sheehan, formerly of Marshall, California, which was the difference between loneliness and aloneness, being alone. So Paul Elmore is somebody who's very happy to sit and read and keep himself to himself, and he does not feel loneliness, he claims, in that way. So there is a distinction. Mm-hmm. But I do think it's a very lonely world out there.
Lonely as in lonely.
Well, the composer Kurt Masur, formerly of Planet Earth, Kurt Masur is dead now, he said when he moved to New York, he was taking over, the New York Philharmonic or something like that. I'm not sure what he was doing there, and the conductor. And he said that he was very lonely living in New York City, which seems odd, so many people. And he said after about 6 months, he realized everybody else is lonely too. So, I mean, there's a situation where I've lived in New York, and I think I knew what he was talking about, where there are lots of people, but it's a very lonely place.
Well, cities are anonymous. People like to have their anonymity in cities, and you don't necessarily know your next-door neighbor in the apartment next door, except from the noises they make, and you go,
well, gracious.
But here are some quotes, okay. Honoré de Balzac said...
Wonderful.
Solitude is fine, but you need someone to tell that solitude is fine.
Oh, wait a minute! That voice. So do you do another radio?
No, that's a real Frenchman. Jean-Paul Sartre. If you're lonely when you're alone, you're in bad company.
Well, that distinguishes aloneness versus loneliness.
From loneliness.
Yeah.
And the great philosopher Fiona Apple, when you're surrounded by all these people, it can be lonelier than when you're by yourself. You can be in a huge crowd, but if you don't feel like you can trust anyone or talk to anybody, you feel like you're really alone.
She's obviously not in showbiz.
And then, of course... from everyone's favorite philosophical work, Game of Thrones, from the author of Game of Thrones. When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. There you go.
Isn't
Wow.
is that a Gordon Lightfoot song? Well, anyway, I have Georges Moustaki. We could even play it, Ma Solitude, which he says, "I'm never alone because I'm with my solitude."
Yes, there you are. Yes. So, anyway, but apparently it's the feeling of loneliness, which is in an aging population, if I might put it that way, in which the boomers are the. Are we still in the majority? Maybe we are. We're dying off quickly.
It's a
But,
financial majority.
yeah, but it's a problem for those whose families have left when the kids go off flying off to Winnemucca to pursue their desert life, and you're left out here in Inverness, not knowing your neighbors very much, or maybe just feeling abandoned. Feelings of abandonment, depression can set in. On a long winter's day.
I had a great one. We have a caller. Look at that. Flashing lights. This is exciting. You're listening to KWMR Let's Talk. Who could this be?
The strobe lights went off. Hello, caller. You are on the air. What's your name, please? Hello. Hello, caller. Yes.
Oh, alone, too lonely, too shy to speak. It's okay.
Going. Okay.
Please do call back.
Call back.
663-663-8492 to
You're
join
never
us.
alone when you call here.
So I had friends coming to do a location shoot. Actually, a young Iranian director who won an award at Cannes, became friends with.
Yes,
the caller
carry
back.
on.
The story was, I asked the wonderful Paul Raffel, can you find anybody who does bonsai? And sure enough, he found two people who do bonsai in Inverness, who were a stone's throw away from each other, had both lived there for many decades and were totally unaware of each other's presence. So if they had walked into their back garden and just shouted bonsai once in the last 5 decades, they would have found somebody who had their same passion. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, caller, you are on the air. What's your name, please? Hello.
Hello. Hello, talker.
No?
No. Call back 663-8492. This is Let's Talk, and we're talking about loneliness.
Call back and make sure the mute is not on your phone.
Well, there's another aspect of loneliness. I love this phrase. The shortest route to loneliness is promiscuity.
What do
But you
think?
could be socially promiscuous. You could be sexually promiscuous. In the sense that, this idea that having lots of sexual partners, or even having lots of quote-unquote friends, could be quite a lonely experience.
Well, if you're not deeply connecting with the friend, if they're more of an acquaintance.
But just if the idea of having a lover or having a friend is its exclusivity, that you can't have 10, you can only have one, then that's a problem. Yeah.
So
Could be.
Does that apply to marriage as well? Let's talk about that. Caller, you're on the air again. What's your name, please?
This is great. This is the best caller we've had.
Please. Try again.
Are you on mute? Have you muted your phone?
Muted your phone? Hello? No. Okay.
I think it's great. I hope they keep calling.
The trolls.
You know what? Sorry, Shelley.
Okay, well, I just was going to share that, there's a couple of distinct times that I experienced loneliness in my life, and it happened because of going from being very socially engaged to not. And the first time it happened was going from my graduate study in art school to becoming a mom and being home with a baby that I couldn't really talk to. I couldn't do art projects with,
Right.
And at first I thought, life couldn't be much better. I can just do what I want, and I've got the baby, and then we go for a walk. But it started to eat away at me, and I didn't realize what it was at first, but it was loneliness, that lack of connection.
Right.
And the other time that I really noticed it was when I moved to here, because I came from Southern California, where everywhere I went, I ran into somebody I knew and that I had known for many years. We did projects together. I was very engaged and had, quite a number of close friends. And then coming up here, it's taken.
It's different.
It takes time
new
to
place,
develop
a new
new
community.
relationships.
Yeah.
Well, you bring up
people
an interesting, just to quote Cyril Connolly briefly, the forgotten Cyril Connolly.
Cyril Connolly,
There
half
is,
a B.
there is no more somber enemy of good art than the pram in the hallway. Ooh.
We have two callers on the line. This is for the first caller we got, which is 8317. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please? Hello. Oh, dear.
It's the phone system. This is fantastic. We actually have called. We are not making this up. People are actually trying to
Hello.
call.
Other caller, you're on the air now. Hello, hello.
Other caller?
Hello.
Is there something depressed in the... Well, there is something depressed in this whole place, but
go ahead and
is there a little
talk,
button that needs to be...
oh, my God.
Is that it? That was
Hello,
it.
caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please? This is the 8317 number. Hello. And hello, caller, you're on... Oh, hello.
Hello?
Hello, callers.
Hello, hello?
Call back, please.
Call back. Yeah, there
call
was
back.
a problem with something.
Yes, it was my fault.
There they are.
There they are. Yes, loyal.
Okay,
dutiful
hello, caller. You're on the air. I'm sorry. What's your name, please?
And the other one.
My name's MK, and I've been trying to call you for...
I know, it's my fault. I
MK,
didn't
you always
do-
say that, but you don't write. We haven't talked in ages.
There's a yellow dot mantra, and I didn't do it. So there you are. So, how are you? What would you like to say about loneliness?
I'm well enough. It's lovely and cool here, finally.
Oh.
I was thinking about the difference between being alone and being lonely, and being alone is something that I really like because I enjoy my own company. My mind is an interesting place, and I'm very used to being alone and actually try to maintain it that way. But loneliness is, I don't know that I've ever been lonely really, except maybe in New York. You know, walking down the streets with those millions of people.
There you go.
The thing that struck me was when I was walking around the other day and came upon a restaurant-y sort of outdoor place, and all these people were sitting there with their faces on their phones, and
Yes.
they were very solitary.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, you know, what's going to happen to the next generation? Because I know my own grandchildren go around with their phones in front of their faces, and they don't
Yeah, well,
interact. But it's a real problem.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
It cuts back on social interaction. You're not meeting the eyes of anybody as you're walking
You're
around.
socially interacting, but it's in a very sort of abstract kind of way. It's not, you know, you're not smiling and looking into the other person's eyes and watching their body language, and you know, you're just listening to this voice.
Right.
I think miss out a lot on.
Well, they don't even do the voice anymore. It's all texting. I have friends who tell me that if they call someone,
true.
the person doesn't pick up the phone, and then they text them immediately, what do you want? They ask.
Yeah.
So people think of technology as this outside force that has an effect on you. It's actually the thing through which you experience reality. And so the texting and the phone becomes the person's voice. And I don't know how anybody does anything without it.
Yeah, and that's a real problem,
Well, I do
too.
know, 'cause I don't.
Texting as a voice that can be very misunderstood. You know, we
Especially
don't...
when spell check gets involved.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But, you know, it's that tone of voice, the body language, all of those
Right.
things are removed, and we can misunderstand each other, and especially young people.
Oh, it turns them into creeps. It turns them into kind of. I was a school teacher for 1 year, and everybody's a clandestine kind of creepy. They don't express themselves directly. They do it all in this sort of sneaky, you know, this clandestine way. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
MK, you
and
were
it-
saying.
No, that's okay. No, it's like someday you're going to have a job interview, maybe.
Not me.
You know, well, not me either, but at this point. But you never know. And then you have to go and actually talk to a human being.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you never talk to people, but I think more and more it's gotten to the point where I don't know if it's fear that makes people detached like that, or if it's just convenience, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's convenience, habit, culture.
Well,
you know,
it's a competitive society. It's an individualistic and competitive society, which everyone is alone trying to get what they want for themselves. That is that precludes the possibility of our ideal of things like love. Now, Slavoj Žižek points out wonderfully that only French and English, I think it exists in a couple of other languages, do we say fall in love. Love is a catastrophe. Love is some kind of terrifying mistake. Maybe you'll break your hip if you know.
Like diving.
But what this
it's
is
more like surrendering. Come on.
well, so, but that would be French, wouldn't it? But no, I mean the idea of love is this thing that you can't control. Love is this thing that is is unexpected and in some sense, like, you fall. You fall. It's terrifying. But that's not possible in a world that's obsessed by control, in a world that's competitive, in which you're trying to win something, you're trying to get something. That's at war with our ideal of love that exists in the culture in previous
You're
times.
really hooked on love today, Charles.
Well, MK, you called, and you know.
What does it mean?
I have a really close friend right now that I text with every single day.
Oh.
And we both are, he's in Hawaii and I'm here, and we both are word people. So texting is really fun.
I was a god of texting. No, I was amazing.
Challenging and funny and entertaining, and I enjoy it very, very much.
It's like a good game of Scrabble.
I did too. I mean, this is a conversation or a point that comes up often in the show, which is the generational difference. There's a difference between people like myself, and it sounds like you, MK. I was amazing at texting. I was fabulous, but and I don't have a cell phone anymore. I'm not even able to express myself in that way. But I really loved it too. But we remember a world where it didn't exist, and our way of expressing ourselves and constructing language and being excited by communicating with other people comes from this world before the cell phone and before the smartphone and before texting. And
I'm 30 years older than you are, Charles.
well, I mean, age inappropriate maybe, MK, but I mean, if you're in town, but I'm saying I remember when there wasn't cell phones. I mean, there weren't smartphones. Last Tuesday was when smartphones came out, and now every 85-year-old in Inverness is walking around texting. It's ridiculous. But it's a different thing to remember that.
Your aging, falling apart body to have that sort of discipline of texting.
Oh, well, I mean, good for them.
So,
See thumbs, baby.
MK, if you don't mind, we have another caller on the air who's been waiting. Let's just see if
Don't mind.
they're still on the line. The caller, you're on the air. Second caller, you're on the air. Hello.
Oh, hello, it's Sally.
Oh, Sally. MK, are you still there?
Hi, MK.
I think.
Oh, wait, I was really lonely and wanted to talk to MK.
Yeah, I know.
We could just get a direct line going.
Sorry,
here.
MK, I didn't mean for you to hang up. I was
This
just.
is the other way that we can connect, is through Let's Talk.
MK, if you're there, call back.
One lonely person talks to the other caller.
Aw.
A friend. Or we make friends with you. Anyway, the reason initially that I was calling was not to contribute anything worthwhile to the conversation, but rather to try and help Paul with what I perceive to be a technical problem with.
Oh, yes, it was the mantra.
Well, it was
Do the
me,
mantra.
radio expert Charles Schultz. Yes.
Yes, that's all.
Talk about competitiveness.
Well, I'm a perfectionist. I'm just a perfectionist who gets it right the first
I'm
time.
the one calling in, to talk.
So,
anyway,
Sally, have you been lonely in your life?
I have been
For the last
lonely.
35 minutes.
I have been lonely. Sure, I think everyone experiences it. I wonder if it's something that is consciously recognized all the time. Because I've known different people who are living, of course, very different lifestyles, and some people who are very much sort of social butterflies, if you will. But I think loneliness and intimacy are, there's this relationship there. So if you have a lot of superficial friendships, you're still potentially quite lonely unless that's actually okay with you and you're comfortable with it. And it's what you want because you're guarding yourself or whatever the reason may be, or you really do like your solitude. So there's that. But then...
Oh.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, still here.
I think a classic case, Sally, is comedians. I knew a woman who was an intern at NBC, and she had to go through Conan O'Brien's script with him before his show, for his monologue. And she said she would stand outside his dressing room door, and she could hear him inside alone, saying, "You're not funny. Nobody likes you. It's going to be a terrible show. You're an idiot. You're a jerk. You're not this." I mean, the comedian,
showbiz.
Classically, the comedian is
Oh, now, so did you disconnect line one?
It was Conan O'Brien. He was anyway.
So
yeah, people who are very social, people are very funny.
And Robin Williams apparently was kind of a tormented soul, and he was incredibly friendly and affable and outgoing and.
What's something you learn when funny people learn this because they're lonely people and they're often very sad or hurt people or whatever.
Yeah, It's interesting. I guess it's what you call a coping mechanism. I don't know. I just think that all the points you've made are so interesting, like isolation and solitude. They're kind of like if you have a self-imposed isolation, like you could still be in community, like people who are in isolation in a monastery, for example. They're still interacting within community, maybe in silence, but there's the energy, the common energy and spirituality of support there. But the isolation in a prison is a torture.
Yes.
It's an imposed torture.
Social isolate, or yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think people are social beasts for
Absolutely.
sure. And but I also, when I first moved to a new town, I felt kind of lonely. But and then what I did was I got a rescue dog, famously neurotic dog we know today as Camilla, and I thought, well, I'm gonna get the pup so that I don't lie on the couch and watch old movies all day, but rather only half the day. And then I will get out.
You say you need somebody who needs to poo other than yourself. More pooers is the key.
Yes, exactly.
So you also there's a social interaction that comes with being in the suburbs with a dog, and you go to the dog park and
exactly.
You know,
I literally stumbled upon a group of people who all had their dogs in this park, and actually in the school lawn area after school, and after school hours, and I literally have made friends with these people, and they are now, I would call my community of my neighborhood.
Do you know what we used to do, though, Sally, was smoking. It was so much more fun. It's a lovely narcotic alternative to having a dog.
But now
smaller, easier to carry around.
But now you stand outside, and there's the group of
No,
smokers
yeah, they're
outside.
outside. But smoking used to be a high-class thing 80 years ago,
Well,
and now it's a low-class thing.
Yeah, you can. That's right. Well, they put the words to Take Five, which is, have you got a light? You know that great jazz song by
California's own, Dave Brubeck.
And, just about take five and offer me a light. Those are sort of the gist of the lyrics. And it's all about, connecting through lighting a cigarette. And that's ritual. So then there's ritual.
And you get to meet exciting
Right.
and risky women. That was the thing, yeah.
Yes,
You want the smoking women.
You're just hijacking this whole conversation away from one more thing I want to say, and then I'll let you go, and you can talk more about meeting women and smoking cigarettes, Charles.
Wow. Kind of cure loneliness.
I knew an interesting woman, a very bright, dynamic, and interesting woman who worked at another radio station, and she's a pretty intense individual, and she was very warm, but she could also be a little bit tough, And she passed away quite unexpectedly about, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, 5 years ago. I don't remember how many exactly. And she, as it turned out, she was just like a master interviewer. I mean, she could make anyone feel at home and had a beautiful, warm voice and interviewed all kinds of different people every, 5 days a week. So it gave you the impression that she had this incredible circle, this community that which she did, but what it turned out to be was that it was really, her life really was the radio station. She sang in a choir, I believe, as well. But other than that, upon her passing, it became evident that her life really was her work at the station, and there really wasn't much in terms of a deep relationship with anyone beyond that.
How
I mean,
sad.
there was some family, but maybe they lived far away.
And she retired from the station, or
No.
she was still in the...
She was still working and
Still in the
passed
saddle,
away.
so to
It was a
speak.
sudden, unexpected death.
Yeah.
But that, to me, I've thought about her and that situation ever since she departed. I've just thought about it like that's very interesting. And, you're so out there in the world, and everyone knows your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's quite sad. I think it's a comedian thing. Sorry, Shelley.
Well, what it makes me think of is, and what I was going to bring up is the whole social media thing where people have developed a habit generally of putting their best face forward, showing, sharing all the good stuff, but it's not the whole.
Well, it's a Victorian public self. Yeah, it's not who you are, but who you'd like to be perceived to be.
Mm-hmm.
So you're putting the persona on even in social media.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. I mean, I think that is what it is. But, back to the loneliness of New York.
Not everyone, but that's.
Well, the loneliness of New York, I'd get up in Brooklyn and go to the L and go into, say, Union Square in Manhattan. And in that course of that transit, you will see 500 people, 1,000. I mean, that you come across and you see. And the first thing you have to learn as somebody from the Midwest is that you cannot respond to the suffering you see all around you. And that's disturbing because I hope, maybe a rational hope, but I hope that there is some innate faculty for empathy in human beings. And what you have to do is you have to continually say, I'm not going to respond to this person I'm seeing suffering in any way. Not just the homeless, but people who are just, you can see they're distraught. They have they're unhappy, or in some kind of difficulty. The terrifying thing wasn't that you can deny your empathy to other people. The terrifying thing is it becomes an unconscious process, that you no longer see the suffering of the other. And that's what the discipline of living in the city, and that is one of the many reasons why cities and city life is so terrifying, because it turns the denial of care and love for the other into an unconscious process. You simply don't see it anymore.
And it moves out. It's been moved out into suburbs as well. The suburban thing where you can lock yourself inside and you don't have to.
There was a conflict. One of the people is dead. They'll all remain nameless up in a part of West Marin. Two totally citified people who moved out to the country so they could have their Disneyland version of country life, moved right next to each other, but they were both city people, and they fought like dogs over the stupidest things, and it was unbelievable. But they had brought that city aspect into the country. And it's true, it's very true of a place like West Marin, upstate New York. I've seen it in many other kinds of places like this, in which the city ethic of the denial, the unconscious denial of empathy as just a way of living comes out into a place where what people would like.
Suddenly everyone knows your business.
Yes.
Suddenly everyone's looking at you.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time to connect with people.
Not me. I'm naturally ebullient.
I agree with you.
Yeah, sure. It takes time.
I'm sorry,
Thank you.
caller, what did you say?
I'm in accordance with Shelley. I'm sorry, Paul. I know to Charles. Constantly in accordance with you, but but it does take time. It's like a nurturing. I mean, you might hit it off with someone right away, but you're coming into a situation where that person has a life and a family or whatever they have going on. And so when you come into a community and you're kind of new, it does take that time, at least on that level, and even especially coming into a city or a different neighborhood in a city where people are more guarded, as you say, Charles. People are more guarded and exclusive. I have a very, very dear friend who's single and the most fabulous girl in the world, and she lives in Manhattan and she hasn't met anyone.
Would you have a phone number? What do you mean? What's going on?
You just met her.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
If anything, you are predictable, Charles.
It doesn't work.
It shocks me because it's like she's so engaged in so much, too. And she has really good friends.
Hold on. Is she still at the airport? I could get down there. I could be there in an hour and...
No, it's just that's a strange thing to me.
Yeah.
That why can't, if you're, doing this work here and you're involved in this community over here with this spiritual community or this, a group of people that share some sort of recreational activity together, how is it that you don't, find a nice partner? So there's that too. I mean, people equate being without a partner to being, it could be so lonely. Other people think it's a blessing. And, I think people have different, what is I don't know, what's the ultimate thing that unites, but what is the pure definition of loneliness? I don't know.
Loneliness is a complex and unusually unpleasant emotional response to isolation. Loneliness typically includes anxious feelings about a lack of connection or communication with other beings, both in the present and extending into the future. That's a good part of it, that there's no hope of me meeting anybody because...
Well, in my case, it's actually true.
As such, loneliness can be felt even when surrounded by other people. Causes are varied: social, mental, emotional, and physical. So, yeah, and it should be treated as an epidemic. Apparently, psychologists are saying that. Now,
Sally, stay with us.
Sally,
Must and on.
you must awa. Okay.
Thanks
Okay.
for calling.
Have a wonderful time with those underwriters. Great show.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it's time for a station ID. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you, Sally.
So caller, hang on a minute. I have to do a station ID. This is KWMR, Point Reyes Station, 90.5 in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 Bolinas, 92.3 in San Geronimo Valley, and streaming on KWMR.org. KWMR is supported by the Sustainable Sports Foundation, which puts on the Marin County Half Marathon, the Marin County Triathlon Weekend, and the Celebrity Doodle Auction. All net proceeds from these events provide swim lessons for children from low-income families with an emphasis on water safety. More information online at sustainablesports.org. And KWMR's programming is also underwritten by Tamales Bay Foods, home of the Cowgirl Creamery and Cantina, providing fresh organic cheeses, picnic items, and takeaway meals. Located at 80 4th Street in the Tamales Bay Foods Barn in Point Reyes Station. Tamales Bay Foods is open Wednesday through Sunday. And where'd he go? We lost somebody. Let's see. We have a caller on line 1. Hi, caller. You're on the air. What's your name, please?
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
This is Mia from
Mia.
out front.
We've met before.
I just had kind of an interesting experience this year because I like a lot of time to myself, and so I started dating someone for maybe 5 months or so, and they liked to communicate all the time, constantly communicating. And it was kind of a problem between us because I was like, I need my space. But I got used to it, and it sort of tweaked my mind a little bit in terms of how I thought about communication. So it was really interesting after we broke up. I was so used to that constant, communication with somebody that I have felt more lonely in the months since then, and it's kind of taken me a while to get back to my normal. Of course, there's the breakup factor, but
right.
It was just an interesting pattern that got established. I started thinking more like them in terms of the frequency, not necessarily the content of the communication, but just the frequency. So I found that really interesting to watch my own mind sort of shift in its patterns in terms of what I wanted for communication. So that was just a really interesting experience, and I've found myself becoming more like I used to be a few months after it, but I just felt a loneliness that I hadn't felt before because of that little rewiring.
Little
Right.
pattern
I
that
wanted to
developed.
share that. I thought that was an interesting process.
Yeah, it's like you had to go through withdrawal.
And it wasn't just from that person, it was from that actual
Right, the activity.
communication pattern.
Yeah.
So that was my story. Just wanted to share that.
Thanks.
Well,
Thank
thank me.
you, do call in 415-663-8492, and I promise I've got everything figured out now.
But I think, hold on. I mean, that is back to that vulnerability that's created by that level of intimacy with another person, is that you are, changing in a relationship in a power-mad age, in an age obsessed with control. Nobody wants to give up control and power in that way. And it is potentially very dangerous, right? Say you pick the wrong person. Now, no woman I've ever dated said that, but but if you do pick the wrong person, or they're psychologically, really weird or vampiric in some way, then, you're in this terrifying situation.
I'm just going to take issue with that.
Oh, okay, what's going on?
So it's not so much you pick the wrong person, there's something wrong with them, right? That they're...
She's pointing at me when she said that.
It's more that they're not the right one for you. that it's not the
Yes.
right fit.
I guess,
for
but people
each
say
other.
that.
It's both ways.
But that's your friend that's had 34 husbands who says that. It wasn't the right fit. It's like, well, who's it going to be? I mean, where is this person? I mean, don't you think? I mean,
a
that's,
little bit of exaggeration, I'd say.
well, 34 is a high
Goodness
number.
gracious.
32. 32 husbands. No, I'm just saying it's an
No,
excuse
no.
for anything, right? Because the problem is it is this giving up. Quite a bit, and it's a struggle, and it's unhappy. It is not a purely happy relationship. The most
Well,
successful relationships I see are people who are actually able to fight with each other and are not
Right.
happy with each other all
Right,
the time.
right. So that's the vulnerability. That is the opening up of the true, real thoughts and feelings that you're having that might feel like, oh God, I can't share that. That's too weird, or that's too mean, or it's whatever it is. Like you tell yourself you shouldn't share it, but it's in the sharing of those difficult things that we deepen our connection.
Well,
Sure, of
I
course,
agree, but I would just say that what people are often looking for in an infantilized world, the one we live in, for instance, is unconditional love. They're looking for the love of a parent to a
Right.
child rather than a love between two adults. Which in which I love Will Self's expression: the spouse sitting next to you who has a whole areas of their soul effectively walled off from you, and yet I wouldn't have it any other way. What would be the point of being in a relationship with somebody who is perfectly legible to you, who you could see and
Except
read all
we're
the time?
always evolving, growing, and changing, and ultimately, being in relationship can help that evolution, that personal evolution.
Yes, but
if you get a good partner, if you,
Yeah, I think I have to disagree with Will Self.
But I
No,
think
I mean, certainly there's always some deep, dark place, recesses
Well,
of
yeah.
your personality that are hidden from everybody, and
Yes.
perhaps even from the love of your life. But no, that's part of relationship, is that you know everything you can know about each other.
I know. I think that's great.
And
But
you
that's
can fight. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why it's okay to argue, because
one who
you know
loves you
that it's
loves
not,
you with your dirt.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
also a real friend, my friend, not just because of me. My friends call me out on things all the time. It's like, but that's what a friend is. A friend is somebody who's like, "Are you really doing that?" Huh? Right? But there is this kind of Facebooky world, which is a friend is somebody who agrees with you all the time. Avoid those people. If anybody's agreeing with you all the time, they're trying to manipulate you. in
Too
some
many
way.
likes.
Yes.
So here, just getting statistical for a while, it's been estimated approximately 60 million people in the United States, or 20% of the total population, feel lonely. I don't know how they've come up with it. 12% of Americans have no one with whom to spend free time or to discuss important matters. And it's been increasing over time. In the 80s, it went down from, you had the average American discusses important matters with close people, and they had 3 in their lives. It went down to 2, so it's gradually decreasing.
It does seem like it could be a symptom of social media in that you don't have to be vulnerable on social media, and so you lose that practice and you're not sure how to do it. It's a scary thing to be vulnerable with strangers and get to know a new person. So yeah, people have lost that
And
practice.
There's a statistic from, years ago, that a quarter of the population in this country lives alone.
It must be higher now, I would have thought. I'm just
It may be,
extrapolating for myself.
as spouses are dying, and
Well, if
kids
you
are
live
leaving.
alone and you're happy with yourself,
Well, exactly.
and you have
That's the difference.
Yes, but is it
this
even possible?
mindset? What?
I would go the Raffel line on that. Is it even possible to be alone and be happy with yourself? I don't know.
Oh, of course.
That's a
Absolutely.
rarity. That seems to me must be.
No.
Well,
of course you can.
so that's a mindset thing.
Solitude. You're
Charles.
talking about
If-
solitude.
If you think that it's not going to work, it won't. That's the simplest statement.
Sort of self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, solitude is good for the brain. Sometimes you just want to get away and just, that's why
there are
people go
people
camping
who-
or wandering in the woods.
No,
or
I
whatever.
hate-
Or people who surround
No
themselves
camping,
with
no.
people constantly so that they don't have to be alone
I wanna
and
bring-
deal with their own thoughts and things that kind of come through
but the thing is that the adventure travelers, the outdoorsy people, they are using those experiences to avoid contemplation, not to experience.
Some of them are. Okay. So do give us a call. 1-415-663-8492. Give us a call. Tell us if you're lonely and talk to us.
We're here for you.
let's see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, here 30% lonely people are around 30% more likely to suffer a stroke or heart disease. Wow.
I believe it.
And they found that it's because social isolation, unwanted social isolation, activates the fight or flight stress signal, which increases levels of the protein fibrinogen in anticipation of injury and blood loss. Too much fibrinogen is bad for health, raising blood pressure and causing the buildup of fatty deposits in the arteries. And here's
It's
one for
okay,
you,
I've got a
Charles.
cat now.
20% people with just
perfect.
5 people in their social network had 20% higher levels of fibrinogen than those with 25 or so. And having 10 fewer than having 15 fewer friends in your life, 15 people with whom you sort of interact, had the same impact on levels as taking up smoking.
Hey, I smoke and I have a tiny social circle. I remember for years in Marshall, I didn't have a car. People keep giving me cars.
They're
I hate
4'5".
Keep your cars to yourself is all I'm saying. I don't need any more cars. I saw 6 people a week. I would see Paul Fenn, Julia Peters, George and Ivan. I would see Paul Elmore.
Yeah.
And I massive expansion of my social circle, including Paul Raffel. But that was six people, so it was healthy.
6 people in within walking distance, basically.
Within walking distance. Yeah, no, I mean, look, some things are solitary activities. Being a writer is a solitary activity. Being an artist is a solitary activity. It requires solitude. It requires separateness from other people. You can't,
Oh, no.
Oh, well, I know bad art it can function.
We have an artist here.
Well, there's other ways to be an artist. There's not just one way.
Well, not for me.
I personally, yeah.
Well, no, you can have the Warhol factory thing, but it just produced all this garbage
Well, you know,
art.
you've got the whole social practice art now.
What is that?
Social practice, that's when an artist goes into a community and works with the community to develop a large-scale piece of art or to have some kind of artistic engagement with a community of people. And it's a thing that's being taught in the colleges now.
I guess. What is this new age shoe shine? I guess. I'm just saying.
There are many ways of producing everything.
Not long form
including
prose
art.
fiction. Not the novel.
No,
I'm sorry,
I
the
think
novel
that's-
is not.
yes,
does not
exactly.
happen in collaboration with the local ding dongs.
Exactly.
A big statue, maybe. Well, anyway, so those things require solitude. But again, I have to say the economy reinforces this idea that another person can never be loyal to you, can never truly be a friend, can never truly be a lover, can never truly be a neighbor. It's saying that we're always in competition with each other. And so we like to gloss that over with, look at my face page, I went to Maui. Again, and all that jazz, but it doesn't work. And I see people who are made desperately lonely by doing things. This is a great one. I intended to say this on the air. I will say it on the air.
Okay.
I was invited into a threesome last week, two weeks. This is
Oh,
great.
should we give you a little?
You're getting to know too much about
Getting
Charles'
to know
love
you,
life. Huh?
getting to know all about you.
You
No,
just-
love. I didn't join in.
When was this?
A couple of weeks ago, I was stunned. I was really stunned. But what I saw, this poor young woman, was people are trying to have those kinds of connections, to have a kind of deeper sense of collectivity and connection with other people. But they're doing it all the wrong ways, and so this was a date that had been set up online, and the online guy. I mean, he's this guy that he really is got a heart of gold, and he just wants to be in love with one person and be happy and all this stuff. But he's become this incontinent dater, and so I accidentally walked in.
That's interesting.
Well, I walked in on, as I say, promiscuity, the shortest route to loneliness.
Yes.
I walked in on a date of his, and that particular date, the love of his life at that moment, he's pretty quick out of the gate, was sort of proposed that
you join in.
he and
Oh dear,
she
the
and,
seamy underbelly of Rosemary.
Marshall, yes.
Now,
It was Paul Raffel and Sally Phillips.
Oh,
Don't know who you're
not
talking
naming
about.
any names.
and let's see.
Well,
Here's something. It's not just humans. Carpenter ants. When they're kept in isolation, they stop They keep walking, and they don't eat, and they don't digest. They die. Same has been shown with parrots
They don't know
who
their purpose.
die younger when they're forced to live alone. Anyway, it's not just humans. It's not just this incredible brain that we have. It's this social animal instinct. When it's taken away, when social contact is taken away from us and doesn't feel good, it's not something that you voluntarily do. Then.
No, it's terrible. It's terrible to break up with somebody.
Well,
And it's also genetic, by the
Yeah.
way. Some of it can be genetic. Anyway, Shelley, sorry.
I just remembered another time I felt lonely, and it was in relationship because my partner at the time was having a drug problem that I wasn't aware of, and left me sitting at home with my pint of ice cream and watching movies, all by myself, and it was really hard to be left behind by my partner over and over again. And
hiding that from you.
Yeah, feeling lonely in relationship is, I think, even more painful.
Hello,
Oh, yeah,
caller.
indeed.
You're on the
No,
air.
I've been there.
What's your name, please?
This is David calling.
Hello, David.
There.
How are you today?
Well, I'm don't know
lonely.
anybody else around me,
I'm so lonely.
so I have to resort to the radio.
Somebody go buy some jewelry, all right? Come on.
Yeah.
Well, we're here to talk.
Good, thank you. Well, one thought that occurs to me is thinking about somebody who is lonely, and a way to perceive that, at least after they've passed on, is how many people are going to come to their funeral.
Who cares about that?
Well, it's the best party of all. You have to be there for it.
I know.
We actually do know somebody that staged their own funeral
Well, I knew
twice.
somebody else.
David was there.
David was there. Okay.
I was there, yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that occurs to me. But the other thing that occurs to me in terms of how lonely somebody might feel is in terms of acceptability. How acceptable you feel to other people.
Well, I think I'm genuinely eccentric in some ways. I mean, West Marin is filled with people who are different in exactly the same way. It's an extraordinarily conformist place where difference is attacked, just like it would be in, Sharon, Connecticut. I mean that is what's crazy to me is actually people who are different and say different things. People hate it.
But this acceptability is something. It's something within you that you're building up as a barrier against contact. Is that what you mean, David?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm going to say
That I'm not worthy.
like Dr. Martin Luther King, I'm proud to be maladjusted. It's not the only way I'm like Martin Luther King. Many affairs with waspy women.
Oh dear. Can we get away from this?
Yeah, you would find it beyond. You do it. So anyway,
Have another show, Charles.
I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to have another show. Anyway,
So David, yes, that's a good point that we put up barriers when we're in certain. Depression certainly will do that for somebody. They just want to lock themselves away. Especially
Yeah,
after.
sure. And I don't want to show this to anybody else. I mean, I certainly have felt that.
I'm not by
Yeah,
law allowed to show
yeah.
it to anybody. Anyway, there was an incident.
And jeez.
Yeah, we put it away.
We're nude here in the studio, but that's what we do to
It's
loosen
awfully
up.
hot in here.
It is.
I'm
quite
sure
hot.
glad this microphone is large.
Oh, well,
Wait.
gracious.
Hang on
Was
now.
that a compliment?
I'm not sure. Anyway, it's the foam covering. It sort of enhances the. But loneliness. Are you? So you're lonely in Point Reyes Station, David?
Oh, sometimes I am, yeah.
I don't
As
know.
opposed to just alone, you have feelings of loneliness?
Sure.
Oh, interesting.
I think the utilitarian
For a
calculus.
long-term resident of this
The
area.
former mayor of Marshall,
Yeah.
the mayor of Marshall, Paul Elmore says, "Who's the mayor of Marshall?" He says, "Actually, it's David."
Yeah.
Well, and it has to do with making and maintaining deep connections.
Mm-hmm.
And, I certainly have some great connections. And but these days, somehow, I feel the lack thereof.
Why is that,
this
do
a
you think?
change? Is this a change from when you were the mayor of Marston? By the way, I want to make and maintain deep connections after 7 years in West Marin. I just want to do it with a knife. So you can't shake
If
your head on
only
the
that
radio.
was funny.
What, is that not funny? Was there a stabbing today? Anyway, so David, is this a change that you've seen over time?
Yeah, it has.
What do you think changed?
Well, I don't know. I kind of see the seeds of it in me over a long period of time. And, I think to a certain extent it has some things to do with childhood stuff and maybe inherited stuff in my, genetic. I mean, because I saw the same thing in my father.
So you're talking about your withdrawal, basically. It's you withdrawing rather than being a lack of social interaction?
Yes and no. I mean, actually, I just came back from Denmark, where I was together with friends who I met 50 years ago and have seen occasionally in the interim since, and still have contact with, and had wonderful, wonderful, warm feelings with them. If I were with them all the time, if I lived around them, I have a feeling we would do things together and feel close when we did them, but I'm not sure that I would feel that sense of fulfillment otherwise. Does that make any sense?
So have things changed in your social circle locally?
Yes, they have.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I just lost a friend, not through death, but this was a friend that I had made here in West Marin, and then she moved away.
Oh.
And so I've had to sort of mourn the loss of the close contact relationship, although I won't lose her as a friend, but it's changed.
Yeah.
And I really had to mourn that.
And I lost a friend who died recently. That's permanent.
Yeah. And mourning, that's something that it takes time. It comes in waves, and then the waves can start to get smaller and smaller and less frequent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, there are just two tiny pieces of advice. One is a quote from Aristotle. I'm going to set that to one side because Paul Raffel is going to give me an annoyed look. The other is a friend of mine, a lovely, lovely fellow, Tom, who used to live in the Fillmore in San Francisco. And he said, you want to make a friend, ask him to do a favor or offer to do a favor for them. Immediately engage yourself in how another person survives. Now, the problem with utilitarianism, which is the ethos of my generation, certainly, is that they're really good at asking you to do them a favor, but they never offer to do a favor. So there's the getting is the getting, I would think, is how, and that's the way the people behave, and they think that's normal. It's a kind of spiritualized selfishness that we live in. But really, offer to do people favors. I'm going to go pick up peaches behind the Grandy building and maybe say hello to David in a minute here. And that was just why? Because if you can do somebody a favor, if you can say yes rather than say no, do it. And that's the basis of friendship and really getting to a deeper level of engagement with people.
That's great, yeah.
I said something. I had my own New Age shoe shine. I'm finally from West Marin.
But so the wider your circle of acquaintances is, maybe the more people of the user kind you will meet. So, and you happen to be a very social person. You're always wandering around, dropping in, and you meet everybody.
Whether people like it or not.
You meet the bad and the good. Whereas...
looking for enemies, making friends, the Charles Schultz story.
2 or 3 excellent friends would be a supportive thing.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Emerson or Thoreau or somebody from an unfortunate part of Massachusetts said, if you get one friend in life, that's pretty good. That's right. If you get 2, if you get 3, you're rich.
But then what do you do when they die?
Be thrown on their funeral pyre. I like the Indian method. Nothing can console the insane loss and unexplainable loss of death. I mean, that's true. But again, in so much as your life has any meaning, it's in the way in which you impart the energy that you have to other people. And so if that great friend that has gone, and I've had great friends who've died, committed suicide, and all kinds of things, You know, if you can impart some of what they gave to you to another person, this is as close you get to immortality.
Exactly. The learning, the lessons from those who are gone.
But if your friends
So,
are
David,
idiots and they die, don't repeat what they said to other people.
Thank you very much,
Like
David.
Alan Watts, get him off the radio forever.
Are you still there, David?
No, David is gone.
David's gone.
I
Okay.
insulted Alan Watts. He couldn't deal with it.
5 tips. When you meet up with close friends, talk about your feelings, not just your jobs and families. Being honest about your life helps people feel closer to you. Plan holidays or birthdays well in advance so you're never lonely at times when it really matters. Invite out a new person, someone you've met in the last month. Sorry, my eyes. If you have feelings of loneliness at work, fill your lunch hour with an enjoyable activity. Give yourself permission to say no to events where you can't take a +1, a friend, I guess. And don't wait for someone to call or email. Contact them. There you go.
Yeah, reach out.
Or get a puppy. That helps. And in Japan, of course, there's Paro, the robot baby harp seal, which is being tested for care for elders because... I don't know why, just because they have a fascination with technology. Anyway, that was Let's Talk Radio. It's all gone very quickly this week. KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Great.
Thank you.
And thank
And
you
thank you,
to
callers.
all the listeners and callers. It was a wonderful thing. And don't be lonely out there. It's a world full of people, and contact is a wonderful thing. Here's something from Annie Lennox to take us away. Bye for now.